Hello, and welcome to another episode of Navigating Your Unretired Life. I know you're watching because you want to know exactly what you can identify as challenges and opportunities as you navigate your unretired life. And we're really honored to have some really special guests here online. A dear friend and colleague I recently met, Mr. Rick Moody, who is really involved with amazing things. I mean, it's just a rich life. And Richard Adler, an amazing person who's been doing work with seniors in empowerment and has created these kind of computer labs to help seniors really stick up with the technology and all that. But I'm going to go right to the point. Okay, I'm going to start out by just talking about it for those of you who are new to this. A lot of people are saying that in America, we're in the middle of a retirement crisis. There are over 12,000 65-year-old people retiring every day. And some of those people have less than $30,000 a year to live off for the rest of their life, a whole nother third of their life, because people are living longer. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur says, hey, look, yes, there are challenges, but guess what? These are opportunities in disguise. Okay. And so, but in order to get to that, we have to kind of change our mindset. And there's several things going on. There are changes happening in the world. There are changes happening in our mind and in our body, and we're aging. Rick, tell me about your life and your calling. One of the things that Rick has done is he's written this amazing book called Stages of the Soul. Rick, why are you here and what are you called to do? What is the story that is emerging and evolving in you that you have to tell?
I want to say that Richard Adler and I are good friends. We live not far from each other, right here in Northern California. And you might say that both of us are retired. I want to come back to that question because I'm not sure that I'm retired, and I'm not sure that Richard is retired. I'm not sure that you're retired either, Art, but who knows?
I'm unretired.
Let's get in. Let me answer your question. I've been retired for 10 years from AARP, where I used to work. And somebody once said to me, how do you retire from AARP? They thought it was a joke. And I said, no, I'll show you how. Just watch me. Okay, so now I've been doing it for 10 years, and I'm even less sure than I was 10 years ago about what retirement is. So I want to talk about life experience. That's my life experience. What about you, Richard? If I said to you, are you retired? What would your answer be?
I would say it's something I think about a lot and I don't have a good answer for.
Uh-huh.
Some days I wake up and I feel like I am retired because I don't have anywhere to go, or I don't have any regular sources of income. And then other days I wake up and I'm very aware of the very large list of things I need to get done, which doesn't strike me as the way you're supposed to be retired.
This is great because your answer packages all the contradictions. Namely, are we obliged to do something? Do we have enough security? How do I feel about what I'm doing each day? What some people call the need to be needed. Are you needed?
Rick, wasn't it your old mentor, Bob Butler, who talked about retirement as the role-less role?
He did talk about that. He didn't invent that phrase, but he was critical of it because Bob Butler, Robert Butler, MD, winner of the Pulitzer Prize, a great man in every respect.
Author of Why Survive.
And Why Survive, which won him the Pulitzer Prize. What Bob was after was the critique of what he called ageism. And he invented the word ageism in 1969. That was the year I got married. I gewalt, as they say in English. 1969. He invented it because there was so much discourse about prejudice, about race, about gender. He said, yeah, what about prejudice about age? So I guess my question is, if I say to people, somebody says to me, are you retired? I might answer, no, I'm not retired. I'm so busy I'm so busy, I haven't got time for anything now. That means I'm not retired. But then when I think about it a little bit more, I realize the reason why I'm so busy is because I'm retired. That is, I'm free. I can do what I want.
Yes.
So that's basically what I want. How about you, Richard? Do you do what you want?
Sometimes. I mean, I'll give you an example of something
Yeah,
that
I
I
love it.
feel like was really a gift of my retirement. And that is last fall, I had my first museum exhibit of my photographs in my life. I've been an active amateur photographer for
Hmm.
almost 50 years. I've been in a few contests. I've won a few things. I mean, I'm a pretty good photographer, but I'd never delved seriously into that art.
Right.
And then starting about 4 years ago, I got interested in one specific subject, which was the new architecture of Silicon Valley. And this came from a Stanford course that was making the claim that Silicon Valley, which had been described as an architectural wasteland, had been transformed by the major companies in this area who had all built very striking, brand new modern buildings. Apple's spaceship being the classic example, but also Google and Facebook and Nvidia, which, by the way, also ended up on the list of the world's most valuable companies. And they had lots of money to spend and decided they needed a monument instead of the kind of very nondescript tilt-up buildings they were in. So I went around and I started taking pictures. When I first started, I just did it for myself. I said, well, I'm going to learn how to photograph buildings. It isn't something I've done before. But I developed a portfolio of photos, and finally somebody said, well, see if you could exhibit them.
Did they
So
give you permission, Richard, to go do these pictures?
yes, I had a lot of time. This was actually during COVID when I was kind of shut down, and I was able to go out and photograph these buildings, mostly from the street. And I amassed a portfolio, and then I finally took it to a place called the Los Altos History Museum, which was very enthusiastic about them. And so I had a 3 month show
I
in
saw it, the
fall of
exhibit.
last
I was
year.
there for the
You were
opening.
there.
Stop for a
I would have
second, because
ever done.
the learning takeaway was this. Okay, there was a passion in you. Okay,
Yes.
that you had kept behind somewhere. Okay, and now that you entered into a whole new phase of your life, this was not an end, but this was a new beginning. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
When
and
you were
and that's a
growing up, Richard, when you were at Harvard, which you attended as an undergraduate, did you think I'm going to go into photography someday?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I had a little camera and I did take pictures there. I was always intrigued by it. But because I was at Harvard, I sort of had this idea that I needed some kind of serious occupation.
Right,
I had to do something important. And
right.
several points in my career, which, was kind of a complicated one, there were times when I thought maybe I should just devote myself full time to photography because I always loved it. But I never did. I always did the serious work until I got to the point where I don't know where it was. I never really, because I didn't retire formally because I never worked for a big organization the way you did, Rick. I just
So you
worked for
couldn't retire.
a number of funny little startups and institutes and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
But I somehow, when I got into my late 70s, I finally decided the hell with it. If I'm going to do it, now's the time.
If not now, when?
You bet.
awesome. And the conversation continues. So stay tuned for part 2.